Well, moving on now, as expected, the Ukrainian president met with U.S. envoy Keith Kellogg in Kyiv Thursday, but the more unexpected news is that their planned joint press conference was canceled, and this at Washington's request, at least according to Zelensky's office. We'll cross now to France 24's Ukraine correspondent Gulliver Cragg, who had been on site standing by at that meeting in Kyiv. Hi there, Gulliver. So do we know why that press conference was canceled?
Well, other than what you said, the Ukrainian side says it was the Americans who requested that it be cancelled. We can only speculate, but I think it's highly likely that somebody among the journalists present would have asked Keith Kellogg who is to blame for this war. And if he didn't answer that Russia is to blame whilst being in Kyiv, that would have been absolutely scandalous. On the other hand, Donald Trump refused to blame Russia for the war, has been even suggesting that Ukraine is to blame. We understand that the United States is unwilling to sign a G7 declaration calling out Russia as the aggressor in this war in time for the third anniversary of the full-scale invasion, which is on Monday. So maybe they realized that and other questions could have proven very embarrassing and it was better to avoid them. But again, I'm only speculating here. All we know officially from the Ukrainian side only is that it was the American side who wanted to cancel it. They also said, of course, absolutely off the record, that they do have the impression that Keith Kellogg has been somewhat sidelined by the Trump administration, with Stephen Witkoff taking a more prominent role in these talks. And of course, Donald Trump himself speaking language which is quite at odds with the kind of language, much more moderate language, that Keith Kellogg had been using in terms of the kinds of accusations that have been flying in the direction of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. We didn't hear anything like that from Keith Kellogg, understandably.
Now, Ukrainians obviously want, Gulliver, security guarantees moving forward. Some sort of European peacekeeping force has been floated as an idea. British media talking about something that could include British and French troops. What other information do we have on this proposal?
Well, the Brits and the French are certainly very keen to show willing about this. A certain number of other countries are as well. But then there are countries within Europe that are very much against it. And interestingly, among those countries that's very strongly against sending troops is Poland, one of the staunchest allies of Ukraine in Europe, one of the countries most worried about potential Russian attacks further into Europe if Russia wins in Ukraine. But Donald Tusk, the Prime Minister, has said absolutely no, we're not sending Polish troops. Perhaps that's because they've got a presidential election coming up and it's about internal Polish politics. But it might also be because they're not really sure that this plan is realistic. The Russians have been very, very clear that they would not accept troops from NATO countries on Ukrainian soil, even if they're not under the NATO banner, but under some kind of European Union banner. Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron and others have been talking about sending troops after a ceasefire is concluded. If you join up the dots, it doesn't seem possible that the Russians would agree to a ceasefire if the plan is to send European troops afterwards, at least not according to the positions that have currently been put forward.
Indeed, doesn't sound like anything that is likely to gain support from all of the necessary parties is on the table yet. Gulliver Cragg, thank you very much.